This edition of Mac Voices is supported by Screencasts Online, your source for new Mac and iOS tutorials every week. To learn more and for a 14-day free trial, visit screencastsonline.com. And by MacVoices Magazine, our free Flipboard magazine that brings you some of the best Mac, iPhone, and iPad productivity tips on the web. High in signal, low in noise, just like MacVoices, MacVoices Magazine includes information on how you can get more out of your Apple technology. Subscribe at macvoices.com/magazine or search for MacVoices Magazine on Flipboard. Welcome to Mac Voices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, this time I get to welcome back an old friend with a new product. I love when that happens. This time we get to talk to John Brayton of Golden Hill Software about his new iOS app, FeedHawk. Got it right that time, John. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Chuck.
So what is FeedHawk?
So FeedHawk, it's an iOS app, but really what its purpose in life isn't so much the app. It acts as an extension for Safari and Chrome and just about any other iOS web browser. And it lets you subscribe to the RSS feed for a site very easily. So let's say you're visiting the New York Times and you want to subscribe to the RSS feed for the New York Times. If you're on an iPhone or an iPad, there's been no really easy way to do that. You could copy the URL into an RSS reader, and not every RSS reader even gives you that functionality. But you can do the copy and paste kind of thing. But there's been no way right within Safari on an iOS device to just subscribe to the RSS feed. So what FeedHawk does is it makes that process very simple. You just open the share sheet, select FeedHawk, and it lets you subscribe. Some sites have multiple feeds, and if a site tells you that it has multiple feeds, FeedHawk will present a list of options, and you can choose which feeds you want to subscribe to. If a site just has one feed, it just instantly subscribes you.
Okay, sounds really simple, but when I first saw this, it's like, wow, finally somebody lets me go back to using RSS on my iDevice without having to go through a third party. Because up to this point, I personally have been using Feedly to manage my feeds, and even then it can be inconvenient, let's say, to get it into Feedly. So this gives me the option of just tapping like I would in a normal web browser on my desktop on, say, an RSS link or whatever. But I guess that's my first question is, do I have to go and find the RSS link on the website, or does Feedly automatically say, hey, there's an RSS feed here, and then it has access to it?
So FeedHawk finds the RSS feeds for you. You just tap on FeedHawk, and it instantly knows what feed you want to subscribe to. Or what feeds it has, and then you choose the ones you want to subscribe to, and then it sends those feeds to your feed service. It supports 8 different feed services. Feedly is not one of them, sorry about that, but it supports BazQuick's Reader, Feed Wrangler, FeedBin, FeedHQ, InnoReader, Minimal Reader, NewsBlur, and the Old Reader.
Okay, so we have a lot of options. Not mine right now, but
right.
That's okay. But still, this brings kind of RSS back into the convenience of iOS, because I don't know about all the viewers and listeners, but I use a lot of share sheets constantly, so I'm very much aware of everything that's in there. And the idea that now I'm going to have access to that easily is really encouraging, I guess, for the future of RSS.
All right, that was one of my goals. Is that I've just found it. I found it not even difficult, just that it took enough steps to subscribe to the RSS feed for a site that I just wouldn't do it. And the thing I found over the years since I started using an iPhone is I found that my RSS reader consumption has gone down, and it's not that there's been a lack of content that I wanted to subscribe to. It's just I've been too lazy to do it because half of my web browsing, or most of my casual web browsing, is really on my phone. And I just wanted that process to be much easier. And sure enough, ever since I've been using the app, the amount of content I've gotten through my RSS reader has gone way up because it's just that much easier to subscribe.
Yeah, of course, I publish MacVoices magazine on Flipboard,
Hmm.
but I also use Flipboard for a lot of my favorite RSS feeds. Same situation. You can get them in there, but
Hmm.
it's just that one or two extra steps that maybe I'm not going to do it. I'm really going to have to think about whether I want to do it, and that can be a good thing, but it also takes away from that. Hey, I just found this cool new website, and yeah, I want to see what they're saying.
Hmm.
At least for the next couple weeks, I want to pay a lot of close attention to it.
Hmm.
So now this takes that away. Um, I have a bad habit of doing this. I jump right in because I'm enthused about the product. So let's go back for the folks who may not know or may be new to some of this because they're primarily iPad or iOS device users. What is RSS and why should I care?
So RSS is a system where, well, it's essentially a format, and a website can publish an RSS feed to its updates. It's typically used for blogs, but it certainly can be used for more than blogs. But blogs are the most simple example. So let's say, for example, MacVoices has a blog, as you know. The if you every time you post, um, anytime you post to the MacVoices blog, it of course adds the post to the blog website, but it also adds an entry to the feed. And then if I don't happen to visit MacVoices every day, but I subscribe to the feed, I will see the new post in my in my RSS feed reader of choice, and I can read it right there. So basically, it solves the problem of there are hundreds and hundreds of websites where when they post something new, I want to know about it, but I don't want to visit 300. I don't want to, sit down and type out 300 URLs and individually visit 300 websites every day. It just makes it really easy to find out when a website has something new that you want to know about without, say, subscribing to a mailing list or something like that.
Yeah. And again, there are a lot of us that are going to be familiar with it. It was
Hmm.
interesting when Google dropped their support for the RSS service back end. A lot of people sort of predicted the demise of RSS,
Hmm.
which always intrigued me because Google didn't invent it; they
Right.
just provided something that was very convenient, and others stepped in to fill the gap. But it didn't. There's something about that major shift in the environment that always brings out the doomsdayers. Um, and RSS, as far as I'm concerned, it's just such an invaluable tool because there's no way that I could visit the 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40 sites that, I feel like I want to keep up with every day. But by
Hmm.
using RSS, it's a piece of cake.
Right. Yeah. I mean, in a way, it sparked sort of a renaissance in RSS systems because before Google Reader, most RSS readers were just, of course, there were no iPhones at the time. So before Google Reader, there were desktop apps like Newswire, which were great. And then Google Reader sort of became the de facto system of, a web-based news reader. And it also had an unofficial API that lots of um, Mac and Windows and iOS and Android readers used as their syncing system. And then when Google Reader went away, some people did stop using RSS readers, but a lot of new RSS reading systems propped up, and it's great because before, if you used an RSS reader, chances are you used Google Reader or you used an app that talked to Google Reader. Now there are literally about a dozen different options you can choose from.
Any particular reason that you decided to go the share sheet route and support other services as opposed to maybe building your own RSS reader that and I'm not a programmer, John,
Hmm.
so you know that. So, I wondered why you didn't go ahead and build a fully featured thing so that when you tap it, it would just launch right into your app, or is that just not feasible?
It's feasible. So for RSS to, I mean, as a user of RSS, the things that you need are a backend syncing system, unless you're just going to use it on one device, and then you need an app on every given platform. And for the most part, those are solved problems. There are plenty of syncing services. There are plenty of RSS news readers on iOS. There's Reader, there's Unread, there are many others. There are plenty of news readers on the Mac. The only problem that, as I saw it, that remained to be solved is there was no easy way to subscribe from an iOS device while you were just visiting a website. So that was the only problem, or the missing link that I saw. So that's what I created an app to fix.
That's a story we seem to hear from so many developers. Is there's a little itch of their own they want to scratch, or there's
Mhm.
just a missing piece, and they go and try to fill it in. Any particular reason, and to go back to the Feedly thing versus the services that you currently support, any
Mhm.
particular reason that you supported those services? Does it have to do with their APIs or the way that iOS is structured?
Yeah. So ideally, I mean, I would like to support all of the services. Um, Feedly is an interesting one because I really want to support it. I know it's very popular, and they have an API. Right now, they're not accepting new apps. I think they must have some. I don't know what the reasoning is, but they're overhauling the API, and while they're in the process of overhauling their API, they're not allowing developers to create new apps that use their API. As soon as they unveil the new API and give me access, I will add Feedly support. Just hasn't happened yet. Um, but the other things that the ones I haven't, the services I have in common, the other thing that the services I chose have in common is that they're all third party systems. You pay Feed Wrangler or the old reader or whomever X number of dollars a year, and you have an account and you just use their service. Two that I would like to support very soon are Fever and TTRSS. Those are open, well, not only one of them is open source, but those are pieces of software that you download and install on your own server. And I wasn't ready to do that for version 1, but those are my biggest priorities are to support those two systems because those are also very popular. And then the only two that leaves that I'm really aware of are NetNewsWire and Flipboard. I would love to support both of those as well, but neither has a third-party API, so there's not much I can do there right now. Since both NetNewsWire and Flipboard are systems where they provide the app and the syncing system, they're not really built to have an API. My guess is if that functionality comes to those systems, it'll be because they implemented similar functionality in their own apps. Although if they add an API, I'll support it.
Yeah, interesting. And I love having these discussions because it points out to us, so many of us, the issues, problems that we don't see behind the scenes that developers face. That, well, come on, John, why don't you support my service? And so there are good reasons a lot of times for those choices. Sometimes it's simple as there are just too many services to support. There are too many things and they're not popular enough to really justify the time. But never thought of a frozen API kind of thing where, okay, they want to overhaul it, so they're just not taking in anymore. And
Right.
I did not know that about Flipboard as far as having an API for RSS integration. Now that I think about it, the way that I use Flipboard, you're right. I can put it in, but it's not easy to get in.
Mm-hmm.
So interesting. And it sounds like, based on the list you just gave us of the ones that you do support and the ones you don't, that RSS is not going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah, I don't think so. Many of these services either were released after Google Reader announced that they're shutting down, or they became much bigger when Google Reader shut down because all of a sudden people needed an alternative. So yeah, I think RSS is here to stay. I certainly hope so.
I do too. I can't imagine trying to manage all the information that is constantly coming at us without some version of RSS or some kind of integration with it. Just too much stuff.
Right.
So how about the specifics on FeedHawk? How much? Obviously, it's in the iOS App Store.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's in the iOS App Store. It costs in the US it costs $2.99, and it's a very simple business model. You buy the app, download it, and it's yours. There's no in-app purchase or subscription or anything like that. It's very straightforward.
Okay. And he just installs, and then it's accessible via the share sheets.
Yeah. So once you download it, you launch it, and it'll ask you to select your feed reader of your feed service of choice, and then you enter username and password. It supports 1Password and LastPass. So if you use one of those two password management systems, it's really straightforward to get your username and password in there. Then it gives you the option of adding it to the share sheet right away. Otherwise, when you go to use it in Safari, you'll have to navigate over. It gets that out of the way during the setup process. And then beyond that, you might never actually launch the app again, but instead you'll use the share sheet option from within Safari, from within Chrome. You just open it, and when you're at a website, just open it and it'll say, here are the feeds this site offers. Which ones do you want to subscribe to?
I know someone's going to ask if I don't.
Mm-hmm.
I can't delete the app and keep the share sheet. I still have to keep the app on the phone, which makes sense for changes to the accounts and all that. So, yeah.
Right. Yeah, okay. And it's just it's an iOS limitation. Once the app is gone, the share sheet extension is gone.
Okay. This is one of those things I can see people buying just for the sheer convenience of it. And especially for folks that maybe aren't into RSS, this is going to make your life so much easier, folks, to add those websites and create a little personal feed of your own. And I don't know about you, John, but I really believe in that sure, I have curated feeds from other folks. And as I said before, I curate, in essence, one with MacVoices magazine. But there's a lot to be said for just taking your own personal mix of websites, whether you're, I don't know, into flowers and beekeeping or sports or, whatever. You kind of can create your own mix of information that you want and need to keep up on.
Yeah, that's really the idea. And another use case I hadn't even that I didn't even have in mind when I wrote it, but I find myself taking advantage of is, because the share sheet extension works with essentially anything that lets you share a URL, I'll find myself, reading, scrolling through Twitter, and someone will mention a blog post that they wrote from their Twitter account, and I'll think to I might open that blog post, but sometimes I won't open that blog post. Sometimes I'll think that I'm not particularly interested in that blog post, but I didn't know that person had a blog, and so I can just and I want to subscribe to it, so I can just hold down on, for example, Tweetbot, hold down on the URL. It brings up the share sheet, and I'll say subscribe to that blog. Select FeedHawk right there, and it'll instantly subscribe to the blog. It's incredibly handy that way.
You taught me something. I didn't know that about Tweetbot. Absent even FeedHawk, but I didn't know that if I held that down, it would pop up a share sheet.
It does.
It's pretty obvious, but okay. All right. So chalk one up for the good guys here. I learned something. How about Golden Hill Software? Tell us what's been going on, because it's been a little while since we've chatted.
Sure. So that is my third app. I have two other apps. One is a Mac app called CloudPull. It backs up your Google account to your Mac. It backs up your Gmail messages, your Google files on Google Drive, your contacts, and your calendars. And it runs in the background, just runs every hour. You can adjust the frequency, but it runs every hour. Backs up the content of your Google account, and it keeps old revisions and point-in-time snapshots for by default for 90 days. So if something was ever happened to your Google account, either Google had a data management issue, or if your account gets hacked or you get locked out of your account, you have a local copy of all of your data. Another app I have is an iPhone app called Marcato. So Marcato, it lets you create site-specific browsers on your iPhone. I created it. Again, it was something I created for myself because I didn't want my Facebook web traffic to. I don't want Facebook's app on my iPhone, and I don't want to use Facebook in Safari because Facebook has an interesting view about customer privacy. I'll leave it at that.
Wow. Are you running for office, John? I love that.
Yes. So I wanted a site-specific browser for Facebook. So what I wrote Mercado, which lets you create site-specific browsers, and it has its own cookie store, its own local cache, all of that. And so when I go to Facebook, when I visit Facebook from my phone, I go to my Mercado site-specific browser for Facebook. So those are my apps.
Yeah, and the obvious other site-specific use cases, I think, are your banks.
Right. It's great for just to keep all that separate. So, it acts as both a bookmark and as a way to sort of prevent phishing attempts or anything like that. Get entirely separate cookie store, separate cache, everything. So it adds a little bit of security to your transactions.
Yeah, and most banks now have their own dedicated apps, and that's probably a good thing. But at the same time, it's nice to have that option should you not have that or have other needs. And I'm sure there are a dozen other use cases that folks can figure out for a site-specific browser that has no connection to anything else.
Sure, yeah.
Well, I'm so glad to have you back and to have a new app to talk about. This is terrific, and I hope that number 4 is well on the way. But I know you won't talk about it, so hopefully it's coming.
I do have another app that I'll keep to myself for now, but it's coming along, and I also have improvements coming along for FeedHawk. So yeah, I'm keeping pretty busy here.
Great. Well, you're welcome back anytime. It's always great to see you and talk about the apps that you have and whatever's coming down the road.
Well, it's great to be here to talk with you, Chuck.
All right, take care. Oh, and what am I doing? I'm sorry. The website where folks can go to learn more about this, all of it.
Sure. So FeedHawk and my other apps are all available at goldenhillsoftware.com. All one word. We're also on Twitter at GoldenHillSW, and we have a Facebook page. Also, something I should have mentioned about FeedHawk earlier, and I just forgot, is that it runs on both the iPhone and the iPad. So, it runs as a native iPad app as well.
Okay, Good. It's great to see you. Thanks so much for the time.
It's great to see you, Chuck. Thank you.
Folks, I'm Chuck Joyner. This is MacVoices. No kidding. If you aren't using RSS, then you really need to start checking it out. And John's app is a great place to start because it'll make it convenient. If you are using RSS, then you know some of the hassles you can have with it on the iOS platform. John's app will make it easier for you to use it there. So 2 good reasons to go check it out, no matter what your position is on RSS. Until the next time, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes, links to subscribe, and to connect with Chuck on Twitter, Google+, Facebook, YouTube, Vimeo, SoundCloud, the MacVoices blog, the MacVoices Dispatch, our weekly newsletter, and on MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard that helps you do more with your Apple tech. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com, bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.